Good afternoon, folks. First, the legal stuff. My name is Scott Schertzen, alongside Mr. Brandon Kay and Mr. JD Walker, and welcome to the Sports Den on Zingo TV channel 250 and Spanglish World Network. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android devices. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Good. All the legal stuff is right out of the way. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Doing great.
I'm going to be more specific. I think it's like, JD, how are you? You guys are like, too polite to ask you to take over. It's like, shut up, I'm talking. But yeah, good.
Doing well. Opening day, baseball is coming right around the corner. We have the Final Four for men's basketball coming up this weekend, and my Heat finally won a damn game last night, so I'm in relatively good spirits.
Yeah, and we're going to be definitely talking a lot about what's happening with March Madness right now because it's all coming down right to the wire. This is where, honestly, it gets the most engaging and the most exciting. We are going to be talking a little bit about how the Cinderella team, it struck midnight, and their ride turned into a pumpkin. We'll talk about St. Peter's a little bit as well, get some thoughts on that. But yeah, I figure let's start things off right off the bat here. Talk a little bit about it. We had a big weekend there in the Sweet 16. St. Peter's, like I said, is done at this point. Coach K still has a shot at this point of being able to, get another championship to retire on. Plus, obviously, we have Villanova and Kansas. Let's start with Duke first, because right now we got Duke and North Carolina. This is something where there's a lot of emotion and a lot of passion as Coach K is calling it a career after this tournament. How much of an impact do you think that has? First off, JD.
I think that, especially with the history of Carolina beating Duke in Cameron at Coach K's final home game just a few weeks ago, I think that gives Duke revenge on their mind coming into this game. For all of the craziness of this rivalry over several decades, they've never met in the NCAA tournament until this year. And part of that is by design because the committee specifically tries to keep teams from the same conference from playing each other until the later rounds. The only time we even came close to something like this was in the 91 Final Four, where Kansas beat North Carolina in one semi and Duke beat UNLV in the other, and Duke over Kansas in the final for their first championship. That was the closest we got to this happening before. And I believe there was one other year where they could have met in the Elite Eight, but one of the teams lost in the first or second round that year. That's it. As far as possible NCAA tournament matchups, whoever wins this game has bragging rights for a very long time of either Carolina being the ones who sends Coach K into permanent retirement, which is oddly, would be kind of appropriate in its own right. If there's any team that can do it, it's Carolina. Or we have Duke coming back and with the last laugh saying, okay, you got the game at Cameron. We have the one that matters, with a championship on the line, at least, the last step before the championship game. And you have Villanova or Kansas waiting on the other sides. We have literal blue bloods of all four teams. After all that craziness in this tournament, we're down to, it feels like the college football playoffs for the same teams that are here every year.
And additionally, 3 of the 4 teams are second seed or higher in this case too. So North Carolina at 8, while certainly, plausible when it comes down to, being in the Final Four, is kind of an outsider because, like I said, you got a 1 and you got a pair of 2s.
Yeah, Carolina didn't really get going until the last month or so of the regular season, where up until about mid-February, it was borderline whether or not Carolina would even make the tournament because they really didn't have much in the way of quality wins. And their numbers in the net and the other metrics that are looked at for tournament seeding weren't really all that impressive, But they got a few better wins, including Virginia Tech and the aforementioned game at Duke. That put Carolina in positive momentum going into the tournament, and the talent is there. We saw it on Sunday where very quickly they jumped out to a quick 9-0 lead against St. Peter's and just never looked back. St. Peter's needed to strike early in order to have a chance, and the layups and the threes just weren't falling early on, and they were working uphill from there.
Yeah. We're going to do a little bit of a review of St. Peter's probably a little bit later on, but I want to come back to Brandon in this case to talk a little bit first about Duke, North Carolina. We'll move over to Nova and Kansas in a little bit, but yeah, as far as Duke and North Carolina goes, Brandon, give me your thoughts on this. Do you think there's honestly are we in for a surprise upset here of Duke?
It's possible. I don't want to say it's not possible because the way this tournament is designed, it's built in for upsets to happen. And when you get this late, like we've been talking about North Carolina the last couple weeks, they are an 8 seed that is playing like a top 3 seed. You know, one of these top seeds. Especially, you said they got hot late in February. That Duke win at Duke to spoil Coach K's final home game, I think to North Carolina really sparked a fire. They didn't do well in the ACC tournament, but coming into March Madness right from the gate, they showed themselves as a dominant team. They kind of through the first round or two a little it happens. They kind of slept on, but then into the Sweet 16, they really showed themselves that they're a legitimate team, playing like a top seed, and I think like we said, whoever the bragging rights to this game, just between that rivalry alone, forgetting the outsides of the tournament and stuff, but just the two teams alone in their rivalry, the bragging rights are going to be incredibly large. And I think the being able to put the feather in the cap of if you're Duke, you beat North Carolina, and then you can get that second feather in the cap of getting to the championship game and hopefully winning that game if you're Duke. But North Carolina, if I'm going into this game feeling confident though. So I really think the key for Duke to get past North Carolina is to out physical them, keep them off the boards for sure. Because if you're going to give them those types of rebounding numbers and stuff, second chance opportunities, you're going to get beat up. But I think Duke has the chance to out talent them. I think they are a better offensive team. And stuff like that. And they've done such a better job in this tournament of closing games out. They've had issues throughout the season of having bad losses, letting some leads dissipate, but they've really turned the tables around on that, tightened the screws, playing extremely well in this tournament. And you got to give them every chance out there to go and beat North Carolina, especially with revenge on their mind.
Banchero has been one of the best players in this tournament, from the start. He stepped up down the stretch of both the Sweet 16 and their Elite Eight games versus Texas Tech. Especially he kind of single-handedly shut down Texas Tech in the last 2 minutes of that game. So this is almost more important than a championship for either one of these fan bases. Because whoever wins this, even if they lose to Nova or Kansas in a championship game, yes, they're disappointed over not winning a championship, but they still have the bragging rights of at least we beat Duke/Carolina on the way to get here, so it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Now if you look at Coach K's legacy and everything that's happened, obviously getting to the Final Four will cement his, regardless of what happens against North Carolina, he knows that he did not go out badly, in his, his final season. Now, in this case for him, looking at it, these are his last, possibly at most 2 games that he's got. It's going to be, it's going to be curious to see in this case what ends up happening, because for him, is there any kind of a thought process where it's like, okay, this is the end for me, or is it still business first, reflection later?
I think it's business first, reflection later. But at the same time, like there's knowing that it's there. I don't believe that Coach K's wife has traveled with him to all of the tournament games normally, but she's been by his side the whole time. And before every game so far in this tournament, they've shown Coach K walking into the arena holding his wife's hand, which is nice to see, but not something I believe that has happened normally over the years, and is just something special for this year, as it should be. And that is nice to see. So just that presence and how they've been emphasizing that shows that it isn't that the retirement isn't a complete afterthought from Coach K's camp, but at the same time, he's all business. He always has been. So beating Carolina is items number 1 through 10 on the to-do list. And the retirement and reflection and all will come later. But this has all been played out for the entire course of this season, and these drawn out retirement tours, which I can't stand, because I think that they're just it's just a self gratification that takes away from everybody else around you. I felt the same thing for when Jeter and Rivera and all of this, and everybody's giving gifts and all this.
Oh God!
Garbage.
Oh my God! Jeter with the gifts.
Which Peyton Manning was right to say, about the quarterback in Tampa who shall not be named. Hey, if you're coming back, I want my gifts back.
Well, yeah, I mean, in this case, he's taking it a lot. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I think there's a lot of reflection and just honestly living in the moment, because if you see just his outpouring of love and just relishing in the moment that he's doing with his team, the coaching staff, I think especially this far to the tournament, that part of it is starting to set in. But don't get me wrong, the business as usual, business first is 100% on their mind. But I really think if you watch all his press conference, he's smiling ear to ear, talking about all these kids like they're his sons. So I really think there is kind of a healthy balance of kind of looking around and sitting there like, man, this is it. This is my last game or two at most. And we've played so well up until this point in the tournament. Let's continue to just pedal to the metal and get the job done.
Yeah. And I think in this case, like you said, the reflection will end up happening later. But obviously, first things first, and he has been down this road. He understands exactly how this works. This is something where you have to go through Carolina. And in some ways, I think for him as well, knowing the fact that it could be the last game might give the players a little more added motivation to make sure, frankly, that it isn't.
But then to that point, any of these tournament games would have been with that logic, with do or die. If he got bounced in the first round, I mean, that's it. You got knocked out in the first round. That sucks. It sucks, but you still had a great ride.
It's the nature of the beast there. It's nature.
Right, it is. So I think now Final Four, there's extra pedal to the metal with them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see with all of that, I don't see Duke losing this game, but Carolina is certainly talented enough to pull it off, and they're just as motivated to be the spoilers like they were at the final home game in Cameron a few weeks ago.
Yeah, there's definitely that too. The final home game and final tournament game, that's a big feather to put in the cap of North Carolina's for their program moving forward.
Yeah, sure. And I've because I actually went to the Elite Eight game in Philly, the Carolina St. Peter's game, and we were sitting next to a few Carolina fans in our row, and they all agreed that how they think in Tar Heel Nation is that you could go 2-20 through the course of the season. As long as those 2 wins are against Duke, it's a successful season.
That's the rivalry part of it too.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do. It matters what you do in the regular season, but it sure as hell matters what happens in that particular game.
Yeah. So Carolina will. So both teams are going to be absolutely amped up for this, for their own reasons.
Now on the other side of the fence, obviously we have to go into this part too, because you've got Villanova, you got Kansas. You got basically, like I said, the 1 seed going against the 2 seed. I think JD earlier referred to it as blue bloods in this particular case, and not wrong on several fronts. But break this one down, because this one I think is going to be a lot closer than the Duke North Carolina game is going to be. But I'm curious to get your thoughts as well.
Nova has been here before. They actually beat Kansas in the Final Four on the way to their 2018 championship.
Hmm.
So the Kansas mystique can normally intimidate a lot of teams.
Hmm.
Nova's not intimidated by that. Nova's won 2 championships in the past 5 years. They're a
Hmm.
machine unto their own right. They, although losing more to the Achilles injury hurts, they're just going to go next man up. It's
Hmm.
what they do. You're going to see a lot more of Chris Arcidiacono, himself the younger brother of a Nova champion player.
Hmm.
Um, you might see some Brian Antoine. You're going to Nova's not going down without a
Hmm.
fight, and Kansas is one of the top 4 teams in the country and has been for the course of the season. They're seemingly always in the mix,
Hmm.
but Nova's not intimidated by this,
I don't think
and
so.
I think that it is. I agree, Scott, that it is going to be a close game either way. But I think Nova pulls through with this, even with the injuries.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think Villanova is probably going to end up on top of this game. Really, the only way I see this game playing out is kind of this really low scoring slugfest. Villanova is going to really be physical, get all up in the faces of Kansas, and really keep it a low scoring game like Villanova has shown throughout all these tournament games. Like we said, averaging was like 55 points, 58 points a game, which has to be which is, I think by far the lowest average. So their defense is off the charts. I think I said this yesterday on Home Court Press with you, JD. Kansas is going to have to score probably like 70 points at the very
Hmm.
least because Villanova can score a little bit, but the defense is their calling card. Um, so I think, especially with the next man up mentality and just Jay Wright's tight ship that he runs there, I think Villanova is once again going to get the better of Kansas in this Final Four game. It's going to be one of these real slugfest late, but I think Villanova probably get to that kind of free throw game, come out on top by a couple points. But I think both games are going to be incredibly close.
Do you see it basically in your case right now? Do you see any possibility that that the Kansas can pull this off?
I think they can. I mean, if Nova has trouble finding a rhythm because of trying to adjust to Moore's injury,
Hmm.
and Nova builds a bit, and Kansas gets a big enough lead, I think that might be an issue for Villanova to come back if
Hmm.
if they go up 20 plus. But I think it is possible, but not likely.
Fair.
But I wouldn't be surprised. I would be a little surprised, but not that surprised if Kansas wins. You can make arguments for any of these 4 teams winning a championship.
Hmm.
There's no
Now,
team here that looks like they're severely outmatched. Like, yeah, this team is just happy to be here. None of these 4 teams are. After all
at
that
this,
craziness in the
yeah,
tournament, you have 4 of the best teams in the country, and that's what this comes down to.
yeah, at this point, you're past the you're more at expectation than surprise. But obviously one of the big teams that was part of the surprise and part of the Cinderella run, and frankly endeared itself to a nation, was St. Peter's. Nobody expected them to get past Kentucky. Nobody expected them to get past Purdue. Nobody expected them to get anywhere near as far as they did. And for St. Peter's, suddenly they went from a no-name school to being on a national map.
It's been an absolutely incredible run. With a bunch of guys who weren't even considered by bigger schools. Um, Actually, I didn't know this until about a day or two ago. But Casey Nadefo actually entered his name in the transfer portal last year, looking to transfer up to a bigger school, but couldn't really find a good fit, so he came back to St. Peter's. There's talent on this team. It'll be interesting to see how many of them stay at St. Peter's next year or transfer up to other schools, or if they're going to be able to keep most of the team intact.
Yeah,
Brandon.
I think St. Peter's really just from the start beating Kentucky won the hearts of America, and I think they from even up to the game against North Carolina, they showed heart the
Hmm.
whole time. They were down virtually 18 to whatever it was, 22 points, I think, pretty much the whole game. But they played like it was a tie game, like they still had a chance in that game. And they're just it's such a likable story to get as far as they did. To especially to be local to our area, JD to have the Seton Hall connections between Coach Shaheen Holloway, which we will get to later, with his story. I just think it's really an incredible story. Those kids at St. You got to keep your head high because that there is absolutely nothing to be disappointed at, nothing to be ashamed of or anything like that. You played like you belonged with these top dogs in the tournament. Got further than any 15 seed has gone before, and they were playing with the most of house money, and they came out on top. And it's really, you tip your hat to them, and we'll see what they do moving forward.
Yeah, Jersey City is actually throwing them a parade.
Hmm.
Yes, it was Elite Eight, not a championship, but they're still honoring them as if they, with a victory parade, because this accomplishment is deserving of that. I believe the parade is scheduled for Friday. I don't know the exact details of that. I've just heard the Friday date thrown out there. So they're getting key to the city, the whole deal, and well deserved.
Hmm.
There's a school that is when you're playing against the blue bloods like Kentucky, Purdue, like any of the big football schools, for a school like St. Peter's that has a campus of 2 city blocks and 2,300 students and a gym which until they did the renovations recently was an absolute dump with a leaking roof, and this just what they've been able to accomplish, from these players, from Coach Holloway, it is nothing short of incredible. When there is so much money being thrown around by these schools, what makes March wonderful is the fact that schools like St. Peter's still have a chance. It's one game. It isn't a 7-game series. All you need to do is be better for 40 minutes. And St. Peter's did that. And it was absolutely incredible. And this is what makes the tournament great. And we were lucky enough to have the regional games in Philly, a short bus ride from Jersey City. So they had a big fan presence there. It was about 60-40 of St. Peter's versus Carolina supporters. The Carolina contingent is loud and they travel well and they have a national following, but there was lots of St. Peter's fans there. You had the Spirit Squad and the cheerleaders and the Peacock mascot hanging in front of the Xfinity Live bar next to the arena and taking pictures with folks outside. We drove by him, and my partner, I was driving, so my partner took a picture out the window. It was fantastic. And just that kind of party atmosphere, and everybody gets their shot.
Hmm.
To jump on that and to throw another point to the fanfare that they're getting with especially the cheerleading squad. I saw a story where through these games, for the most part, they could get to the games because they didn't have basically the ability to travel. And NBC's Peacock, they paid. They did this whole thing where they paid for transportation, I think hotel as well, to get the cheerleading squad up here for the tournament. And so just it's really just an absolutely incredible story, and it goes to show you, like, really, like, anywhere, any school, you could play hard. You could find guys, like, anything can happen in the tournament. That's what's so magical about it. I keep saying the word magic about this tournament for weeks now, but it really is. I'm beating that drum on it, but and it can happen. We've seen, a couple years ago with Oral Roberts, which sounds like my local dentistry, and then years ago with Florida Gulf Coast, and if you remember Dunk City. So, it could happen, especially now where basketball is just all over the country. I keep saying you could find guys in every corner of this country playing basketball. This isn't kind of like college football where it's regionalized to the South, Midwest, and out West. It's basketball, man, and it's really just what makes March Madness the greatest basketball time of the year.
Now, my
Gonzaga
question
went from a school nobody had heard of in Bumble Squat, Washington, to that had John Stockton and not much else in their history. They took a 99 Elite Eight run, and from there they built one of the biggest powerhouses in the country. 23 straight tournaments since then. Two national championship games. They haven't won a championship yet, but one of these years they're going to break through. So I don't know if St. Peter's can be Gonzaga East, and Villanova, you could say, kind of is. Although the Big East is much better. Yeah, although the Big East is much better competition than the West Coast Conference. Sure. That I think is a big difference there. And Nova does have a history with the, but it is still. But for any school that isn't what I like to call one of the big evil Power 5 football schools, for any school like that to have consistent success and win championships in the tournament, I'd much rather see that than the same few schools that are going for it like you do in college football.
Now, my question to you in this case is, because St. Peter's is now effectively on the radar on a national stage, what does this mean for next season?
I believe, while the indications are that Shaheen Holloway should be the next coach at Seton Hall in the coming days, that whoever they do pick as their next head coach will have some continuity. I believe it'll be an internal hire, but that's just speculation on my part. So I think a lot of the players, they can probably keep some of the core together. They'll still have. I think that they can be consistently successful, especially in the MAC conference, where, that has been dominated by Iona in recent years, but they can hang with the rest of them. If they keep going up, maybe they can move up to a better conference than the MAC going forward. I mean, look at what it did. Look at what happened with Butler. They made 2 straight championships, and in the matter of a few years, they moved up from the Horizon League to the A10 to the Big East. Maybe something like that is in store for St. Peter's. Heck, there's some St. Peter's folks. Look at the difference between Seton Hall and St. Peter's. In the 70s, they were basically equals, but Seton Hall went to the Big East and grew from there, and St. Peter's kind of stayed where they were. So is it possible that maybe probably not the Big East, but maybe St. Peter's can make a jump in their own right? That remains to be seen, and some more shuffling of the conferences might need to happen in order to open up a spot. But if there's consistent success for enough years, it's not out of the realm of possibility, since it's happened with other schools that have been in similar spots.
So
I want Doug to make a speech at this parade. Doug, I want a speech.
All right, let's make it happen. All right, should we do a hashtag on that? Make Doug speak. Hashtag make Doug speak.
Let's do this. Let's get it out there.
Just one more question. I'm going to pull a little Columbo on this. Just one more question. When it comes right down to it, who's your pick basically for champion of the 4 remaining?
Duke.
Villanova.
Okay. So my horse of Texas out of this. So barring a miracle, I'm probably going to lose the March Madness pool that we had going on. So thank you.
You are mathematically still alive.
Yes, and the Devils were mathematically still alive actually back in February. Mathematically alive does not continue to mean alive. So whoever that key person is, I don't know.
There is a chance. I did run the numbers on that, so there is still a chance, depending on how the Final 4 shakes out.
Well, I was going to say Duke has to lose to North Carolina. That's the first thing first. If I'm going to have any shot in hell on this, and then Kansas has to win, and then Well, the championship doesn't matter either way. So yeah, that's
Actually, it does because there's another person in the pool who
Well,
has.
I'm thinking between the two of them, and there's a third person in there somewhere. But
Here,
yeah,
hold
whoever
on.
whoever the Kate person is probably going to win all the money on this one.
Here, get me off the screen for a second. I hear my door opening.
All right. So
Hold on.
yeah, I don't have it. Eduardo's got it. Okay. So Shane, get me off this crazy thing. So, but yeah, okay. So basically, right now, you said Kansas, right?
I said Villanova.
I'm sorry. You said Villanova. I'll say Kansas just because. Okay, Steph picked Kansas. Okay, good enough. So basically, everybody. No. So the bottom line is none of the four of us here, actually, Steph picked. None of us, the four of us in this particular case, have gone with North Carolina. So, but bottom line, did you have fun though? I mean, I know you went to that game on Saturday, or the game over the weekend. Didn't go well, but did you at least have fun?
Oh, it was a blast, and
Good.
even with even though St. Peter's didn't win, it was still a very fun experience. Just the atmosphere was great to be a part of. Seeing them cutting in person, cutting down the nets, you could see Hubert Davis crying. That was so because I did, even though St. Peter's lost, I did stick around to watch all of that because it is something that I've never seen in person before, and I wanted to see how that went. Although I wasn't exactly, I didn't exactly have courtside seats. I'll put it that way. But I was in the building.
Okay.
But I was upstairs in the section next to the St. Peter's students.
Okay. So you got to hear. That's what you got to hear them firsthand. Nice.
Yeah. So. Some of the signs were fun. Many of which cannot be shown on this show.
That was the next question I was going to have. Are they NSFW or not?
A few of them were.
All right. So put them in the comments. I'm curious to find out what happened there. So, all right. So at this point, three of us are going to go in three different directions in this particular case as far as which team's going to win. Kate will probably win the pool. So congratulations. You won our money. You suck. And right now, yeah, this is the Sports Den. We got about 23-ish minutes left. Find us always on Spanglish Sports World Spanglish World Sports Den on Instagram and also on Facebook and on Twitter at SSW Sports Den. There we go. I got it right now. Cool. So I want to break this into a little bit more on the NBA side now. The Lakers basically at this point have turned into a laughingstock. I've been seeing some of the memes that have been going on, which ironically enough have also tied to recent Oscar controversy, which we're not going to go into on this show, nor are we going into on Tales from the Film Set tonight. Other things happened at the Oscars besides that. But as far as the Lakers go, how much of a shame is this, and how much of a shame is it on LeBron's legacy?
LeBron can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he was the real general manager of this team. He put this team together, which would have been a fantastic all-star team in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a bit of Schadenfreude here for somebody that basically has spent his whole career trying to put the Super Friends together. In Miami and Cleveland and LA and now Cleveland again, maybe ? Like I do not see, and also every one of these teams, it leaves into a burnt out husk when he's done. So
but a lot of times that burnt out husk still walks away with a championship, and that's what sort of makes it all right in the long run.
Yeah, that's what happened in Miami, and it turned out that Miami didn't really, while they dipped a little bit, they've made it back to the finals with Jimmy Butler a few years ago, and they're one of the best teams in the East again this year. So, just the Lakers, there's only so much LeBron can do to cover up for the absolute clown show that is the Buss family that owns the Lakers. And can't even get they can't even get their own stuff together. They had to, siblings had to fire each other. That's how much of a mess it is. And you see that a lot with a lot of these teams whenever ownership passes down to the next generation after the original owner dies. If there's multiple kids involved that are fighting over it, the power struggle and dysfunction usually sucks up the entire organization.
Sorry, a little cough there. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, the Giants are another good example of that.
Yeah, although maybe they're right in that shift a little bit there. Now,
we'll see.
My question here is: LeBron right now is under contract with the Lakers through next season as well. Is that going to be something where he's going to try and force a trade? What will happen to him after he becomes a free agent? Is it going to be something where it's sort of like Shaq, where he fell into just this miasma of odd teams that he went to? You know, Shaq ended up with the Celtics. He was with actually he was with Cleveland. He was alongside.
He was in
LeBron
Cleveland too. That's right.
Yeah, for like a cup of coffee with both of those teams. Is this going to be something where LeBron may end up in some bizarre location like, I don't know, New Orleans?
Follow the money. Where are his business interests? I would be surprised to see him. Does he really want to move? Maybe he just goes to the Clippers, which would make everybody's heads explode. I mean, you could make an argument that the players on the Clippers are a much better supporting cast than what he has with the Lakers currently. I
could the Clippers afford him?
Possibly a move back to Cleveland, I've heard, is a possibility, to whichever team drafts his son in a few years, which all that is doing, I think, is just placing ridiculously unfair expectations on the son. Who, because of how crazy basketball and early draft prospects are, as early as sophomore year in high school, they're saying, "Yep, this kid will be in the NBA." But it seems like with Bronny, he might need a little more seasoning. He might need to play 2 or 3 years in college instead of 1 year. We don't know yet. Which
a lot already basically makes it worse for him to begin with, because right. Well, your dad went right to the NBA. Why do you LeBron?
Although what's funny is that Bronny actually did get onto a Sports Illustrated cover at a younger age than his dad did.
Well, yeah, but that's also because his dad is his dad, and he shares the same name. Something right. LeBron Sr., by the way, has apologized for. Being LeBron Jr. So, yeah, in this case, but it's so difficult when you see the next generation. You see, I'm going to use Dale Berra. I'm going to throw out there just for fun and games. Chris Sims, Matt Sims, and the rest of the Sims. You have that second generation.
How about Marcus Jordan?
Yeah, or I was going to say Anthony Brodeur. Basically using a Devils reference here. People are like, oh yeah, he went like 206th in the draft. But when you have that last name, dude, it sucks. All
right, let me jump in on this Lakers talk,
please.
LeBron, you got to stop talking about your son. Yeah, that's first of all, that's got to stop. Second, he's not the best player in the league anymore, and I am perfectly secure in saying that in my position as a LeBron fan. However, the Lakers, and mark my words, listen to me very carefully. The Lakers suck. They're atrocious. Yes, LeBron is playing fantastic ball, but the Lakers suck. And I have been saying for weeks through all of my basketball games that I've been covering here on Stream Punk Sports Thursdays and Sundays nights, barring any technical difficulties, the Lakers are in trouble of making the play-in tournament. The Spurs are right on their tail, and with especially Greg Popovich at the helm, will just kind of like the whole Duke thing. They got stuff to play for. They will always be playing hard. So that's first off. I think the Lakers are going to miss the play-in altogether.
They also have the Lakers also have one of the hardest remaining schedules. I believe it's I think they do. Teams they're playing over the last.
They absolutely do. You still got to play the Pelicans again. Which at this point, with the tiebreaker, you're done with them. So at the very least, you are going to get this 10th spot. That's not happening.
And the Spurs have a tiebreaker over the Lakers as well.
It is not happening. With the Lakers, first off, I do want to go back to the comment where you say that he leaves franchises in shambles when he goes. I do want to put this into perspective. Cleveland was a clown show beforehand. When they
Yes.
got him, they were a power. He dragged a team of G Leaguers to the finals against 2007 and lost to a prime Spurs team. Okay, so let's think about that. Okay,
Mhm.
and then yes, you had your
And
issues
LeBron
with
was only
losing
22 at
Orlando.
the time doing that.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're 22 out of high school doing that. So let's keep in mind this. Okay. Then you lose to Boston, whatever, 2010, and they go back to shambles. You draft. First off, is it LeBron's fault that they drafted Anthony Bennett? No, that was an absolute train wreck. Is yes, you had Kyrie. Did Kyrie even get them to the playoffs before LeBron came back? I don't think so. And let's see. What was really Kevin Love and Kyrie, were they really was that really a super team? I mean, if Kevin Love was in the Avengers or Justice League, who would he be? Who would he
Mhm.
be? He wouldn't be Iron Man or Superman or Captain America or any of them. I got to tell you that. So he dragged those teams to the finals and was able to pull out a championship in 2016, beating this juggernaut Warriors 73-9. Okay, and also with the Jordan thing, Jordan went to the Wizards too and owned that team, part of that team while he played. So I don't want to get on LeBron for trying to make moves for the Lakers at this point in his career. But there's something got to be done in the general management and ownership of the Lakers because it is a mom and pop shop gone wrong. And they were like that before LeBron came. Do we remember post Kobe before LeBron? These garbage Lakers
With
teams.
Kobe held the team
Okay,
hostage for years.
fine. Right. There was that big contract where that 2 years was like almost $50 million contract, basically to end out the career. But even that gap, guys like Robert Sacre and Nick Young and Jordan Clarkson before he actually turned into a formidable player, those teams were garbage. And the Heat won a championship before LeBron. Yes, they had some struggles before they got back to the championship a couple of years ago with Jimmy Butler. But let's not forget, D Wade retired. Chris Bosh had to leave the game because of blood clots and health issues. And they have gone back to, yes, they are struggling and they finally won a game last night against the Kings. But that's great. They got to get their stuff together before the playoffs come. But I think that there's got to be something monumentally changed with this Lakers team in the offseason because, like I said, I really don't think they're getting that 10th spot.
They couldn't even
they're
give
absolutely
Westbrook
done.
away at the deadline.
I would
Westbrook,
argue they could have gotten rid of Anthony Davis right after the championship. You know he's not going to stay healthy. Get a load for him while you can, while he's still at maximum trade value.
Westbrook is a cancer wherever he goes, too. Every team that he's on never wins a darn thing, especially after him and Durant split up in Oklahoma. Westbrook, he puts up stats. Yes, he's a ball hog, yet also racks up a ton of assists and triple doubles. But at the same time, his teams never win a darn thing. And LeBron put this team essentially put this team together. Rob Pelinka is a puppet, and everybody knows it. Except who's pulling the strings?
He needs to go.
Is it the Bus family? Is it LeBron? Is it both? He's a joke, and the entire league knows it. I think that the only reason he was even in this position is because, Pelinka, is because I think he was Kobe's agent before he became the GM.
Yes, he was.
And I think he was also one of the, and I think he also, production can check me on this. I think he's also a Michigan grad. He was one of the, not Fab Five, but like part of kind of rode their.
I think he was. Yeah, he was. I believe.
So he's an empty suit if there ever was one. So I don't see any circumstance where he's back as general manager next year. And if he is, they're an even bigger disaster than I thought.
You could put Rob Lowe in his spots. They look the same. Nobody would know the difference.
Yeah.
He would do just as good a job.
With the generic NFL hat.
Jesus.
But all right. So that basically covers that. So I'm basically thank you, Brandon, as always. I'm not sure if deities and comment actually fall into the criteria of what we're allowed to swear on the show or not. But let's assume not. You're just religious for I think a non-Christian. But anyway, we'll find out in the due time on that. With the last 10-ish minutes, I want to swing this over to the NFL at this point, since basically we've spent 45 minutes on basketball, which is not bad. Props to that. But the offseason for the NFL has gone from weird to weirder to now weirder yet. I think you guys may have heard about this at this point, but there was conversation came down that Diggs actually ended up going to the Cowboys at this point. Stefan Diggs was apparently traded to the Cowboys. Did you hear about this?
I have not.
What?
Yes, let's
Why?
take a look.
I mean, thank God, just get out of the division, but what?
Yeah. Let me check on this real quick. Stefan Diggs.
How can the Cowboys afford his salary with no cap space?
Yes, he actually. I heard this morning, and now it's gone. Did they just backtrack on this?
Is this
God,
fake news?
What's that?
Is this fake news?
Could have been. Blew my mind this morning when I read it, too. All right. Well, that's basically okay. That's
clickbait.
Yeah, I was going to say it had to have been clickbait that came through Twitter last night or this morning. So, all right. Basically, not my best moment of all time, but you know what? Whatever. So, all right. Moving into a different direction in this case, basically staying in the NFL arena. There were a few things that have actually happened. We will not be discussing what happened with TB12 or whatever you want to call him. Brandon, feel free to use any kind of thing. If you want to use tuberculosis as TB, you're more than welcome. I think that's probably okay. But you know what? Let's just spend a couple minutes on this and close this out.
Yeah.
We've never really discussed, Russell Wilson. Actually, you know what? Better yet, let's take it in a different direction. Tyreek Hill. With the fact that Tyreek Hill now is with the Miami Dolphins, and unfortunately your Jets are going to have to face him twice a year. Yes, the Jets are stronger, but what does this mean for the AFC West?
Not a corner.
Their defense,
not a cornerback.
Secondary is still an absolute joke, and now they have to play Hill every year. Yay!
Yeah, you can beef up your linebackers and your D line all you want, but that's not going to stop Tyreek Hill when he's burning a 4-1. Speed down you, and forget it.
Well, my question on this is how much weaker does this end up making the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, let's not forget they brought in Juju also.
Mm-hmm.
So unless there really is some internal blow up with him and Jackson Mahomes and their TikTok situation that just blows up the team from the inside out.
Yeah, by the way, didn't he just marry her too, Brittany?
God.
Patrick Mahomes.
That is another toxic couple.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what show they put on.
Yeah.
But no, the Chiefs will be fine. I think it's just the matter of having the rest of the division beef up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the Chiefs as a guarantee to come out of that division.
8 and 9 is probably whoever finishes 8 and 9 will probably end up in last place in the AFC West. That's how strong it's gotten. The thing about the Wilson trade is the fact that even after that move, the Broncos are still the worst team in that division. Like you had the Raiders on the cusp of the playoffs. Yeah, the Raiders making the playoffs and the Chargers right on the cusp last year. The Chiefs being the powerhouse that they are. So Denver upgraded a quarterback.
So cool. Wait,
but everybody else has gotten better in that division.
So based on this, could we argue that Russell Wilson's situation didn't change at all? I mean,
I personally don't think it has.
So if you're going from the
maybe
NFC West,
maybe a little bit.
I mean, if we're going from the NFC West, which we have been arguing the last couple of years has been the best division in football, now we're saying it's the AFC West, and if we're saying that they're either the third or fourth best team, or worst best team, however you look at it, that would be the same situation they had with basically Arizona or San Francisco the past couple of years in the NFC West. So if based on that logic, Russell Wilson's situation is the exact same thing. So what's the
Broncos have a better defense.
They do. It's relative. It's relative still.
The improvement, but the competition is still better.
That's what I'm saying. It's relative.
Now, early pundits in this case, and I'm looking at ESPN right now, they actually have the Buffalo Bills as winning the Super Bowl this next year. Now, obviously, we haven't done the draft. The season hasn't even started yet, but they've got them as the best chance of actually winning a Super Bowl next year. That strikes me as a little odd, but I want to get your thoughts anyways. We got like 4 minutes left.
The AFC West will kind of beat each other up. So whoever comes, and also depending on how the seeding falls, they probably only need to play one of those teams in a playoff run.
Mm-hmm.
So I could, and I think that there's an argument that Allen is, I think by talent, the second best quarterback in the AFC behind Mahomes. You have Burrow a close third, I think, and you could even make an arguments for Burrow and Allen to be interchangeable, but they're still top three quarterbacks in the AFC. You know, we'll see what's going on with Diggs, but you know, and the Bills have beefed up their defense as well, picking up Von Miller. Buffalo's going for it, and they'll be motivated by the playoff shortcomings of last year. So I could easily see the Bills just going on a tear and wiping the floor with everybody throughout the course of the season. I could easily see that.
Yeah, the Bills are winning the division. They are absolutely better than any team in the AFC South. They are absolutely better than any team in the AFC North. Is there any team in the AFC that's going to be better than the Bills? It's coming out of the AFC West. But that being said, I really think the Bills are going to get over at least the conference, AFC Championship hub, get to the Super Bowl. Adding Von Miller, like that. Good luck, Zach Wilson. Great. And good luck, Mekhi Becton, who's supposed to be coming back apparently. We'll see him and that injury.
I see it.
Yeah, that's right. That's fair. But and then but if I think the Jets still trying to make a move for maybe a DK Metcalf or somebody, but it's right now the Bills are obviously winning that division. Yeah, probably. And then any of these NFC teams, maybe you could argue one of them, but I could see it being the Bills for sure.
So, well, we got about 2 minutes left, so we're going to talk a lot more NFL as we get closer to the draft. We have never discussed how my Giants have signed Tyrod Taylor, who I've always been sort of high on anyway, to a 2-year deal and what I think is going to happen. We'll talk about that probably in the next coming weeks. Next week, we'll be breaking down March Madness, or basically at this point, April Madness, probably one more time, and a little MLB preview. So with about 2 minutes left, my name is Scott Schertzen. That was, of course, Mr. Brandon Kay. And, of course, down below was Mr. J.D. Walker. This has been the Sports Den. Yes, go ahead, please.
I have one point out of kind of left field. I might have mentioned this a couple weeks ago, whatever, maybe. Joe Burrow. If the Bengals don't get their stuff together in putting a line around him and stuff like that, look for Burrow to go elsewhere.
And he has the clout now that he could probably demand a trade and push it, yes. But also at the same time, I think a lot of players are going to want to go there, seeing what Cincinnati's been able to do and what that tandem, that quarterback running back tandem is, and knowing what the future could be for Cincy. So,
one more year on that contract. It's put up the way NFL rookie contracts go. It's put up or shut up after year 3. Burrow's going into year 3. So
he's put up so far. He's put up so far. But if Cincy doesn't hold their end of the bargain, look for him to go elsewhere. I'm saying that now.
And we'll also have to figure out at some point in the near future, we'll be discussing what at home for Baker Mayfield is going to be. But
Alice Cooper. He got a new neighbor.
Yes, and Alice Cooper. But
you think he's going to have Deshaun over?
Will he end up like in Las Vegas? It's possible. You don't know.
I can see him ending up with the Giants.
They've already got
I would love to see Baker with the Giants.
That's a doable thing, but they paid Tyrod.
Better than Tyrod.
17. What's that?
Better than Tyrod.
Yeah, but they dropped money on Tyrod. The team already didn't have to begin with. So I like Tyrod.
Whose fault is that?
What's that?
Whose fault is that? The Giants.
The Giants' awful cap situation.
We can go into that one at length at another time. Believe me, I plan to. But that's for right now. We do have to wrap this up. Thank you, JD. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate. By the way, this show can also be seen on Zingo TV all around the globe on Spanglish World Network, Zingo TV channel 249 and 250, on Twitter, SSW Sports Den, and also on Instagram and Facebook at Spanglish World Sports Den. Thanks as always for tuning in. 7 p.m. tonight, we talk the Oscars. We will not be talking the slap because I've had more than enough about that conversation already. But until then, be awesome.